Nnamdi Azikiwe's immense contribution to Nigeria attaining independence. Visions incorporated into goals can birth growth. This is why the history behind Nigeria's independence is inexhaustible. Aside from the multitude of others who saw the growth of this dear nation called Nigeria, there are key personalities who were intentional about seeing Nigerians rule themselves and strive toward breaking free from colonialism. The effort of these dedicated Nigerians will always be remembered and told in many years to come, because the struggles paid off despite the hurdles along the long walk to freedom. Nigerians ended up ruling themselves, either good or bad, and the aim was achieved. One of the many people who fought for the freedom today's millennials are enjoying was former President Nnamdi Benjamin Azikiwe. Not minding the cost, this young man then saw through to the end of the fight and emerged as evidence of his victory. Nnamdi Azikiwe was a talented true Nigerian, a native of Anambra State, an eastern region of Nigeria. He was born on the 16th day of November 1904 to Igbo parents who, due to work, were on a temporary relocation to the north. This implied that Azikiwe grew in the northern region, precisely in Zungeru, the present-day Niger state. He was versed in the Hausa language and culture, but could not stay for long because his father, out of concern that Azikiwe might lose his identity as an Igbo descent, sent him to Onitsha for some years to learn his indigenous language. Due to Azikiwe's father's job, which required him to travel a lot, especially to other regions of the country, gave Azikiwe the opportunity to learn the southwest language Yoruba. When his father was posted to Lagos for 2 years, knowing how to speak fluently 3 major Nigerian languages aided Azikiwe when he later joined politics. He attended his primary school partly in Onitsha and Lagos, while his colleague was in Calabar at Hope Waddell Training College. With high hopes and determination of going abroad to finish his study, Azikiwe struggled to raise funds before his father eventually supported him to study at Historic College in the United States of America. He proceeded to Howard University to obtain a degree in political science. He was transferred to Lincoln University, where he finished from. He went to Columbia University as a candidate for a doctoral degree, and afterward, he simultaneously enrolled at Lincoln University and the University of Pennsylvania for his master's. All of these degrees were not on a platter of gold. Azikiwe did menial jobs to pay his tuition and rent. Precisely in 1934, after his studies, he returned to Africa and started to work as a journalist on the Gold Coast. Not limiting his academic prowess, as a journalist and a new politician, he advocated for Nigerian and African nationalism. To effectively assert his contribution to the growth of Nigeria, Azikiwe became part of the Nigerian Youth Movement (NYM), the first nationalist group in Nigeria. He was active and supported Samuel Akisanya at the time to represent the organization as a candidate for a vacant seat on the Legislative Council. Due to perceived partiality in NYM, Azikiwe left the organization, accusing the majority of Yoruba leadership of discrimination, especially against the Ijebu Yorubas and Igbos. After his voluntary exit from NYM alongside some of his supporters, Azikiwe in 1944 co-founded the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC, with Herbert Macaulay being the head. 2 years into the creation, he became the Council's Secretary General. Meanwhile, Azikiwe never ceased to use his publication, West African Pilot, to attack the colonial government and give his maximum support for strikes, including the nationwide strike staged in June 1945 to protest against the exploitation of the working class. His actions led to the suspension of the publication on July 8th of the same year. West African Pilot resumed publication in August, while the planned strike was still ongoing. With events taking twists, Azikiwe raised the alarm about a threat to his life by unknown persons he presumed to be working for the colonial government. He claimed the assassination threat was encoded in a wireless message intercepted by a pilot correspondent. He went into hiding in Onitsha, leaving some Nigerians to believe the threat to be true. This made Azikiwe more popular, and his newspaper circulation increased in the nation. Azikiwe had more youth support for the fight for self-government. He became an opposition leader, using NCNC as a platform to reject unilateral decisions made by the then British governor, Arthur Richards, and his proposed constitutional provision allowing only 4 elected African members and the rest nominated. Another reason for Azikiwe's opposition was a low input for the promotion of Africans to senior civil service positions. In a bid to achieve their goals, Azikiwe and other founding members of NCNC went on a tour to the UK to argue their case and as well raise awareness of the party's concerns. However, Azikiwe assumed the leadership of NCNC following the passing of Herbert Macaulay. During the tour, he led the delegates to London. He and his delegations met Eleanor Roosevelt at Hyde Park and spoke about the emancipation of Nigeria from political slavery, economic insecurity, and social disabilities confronting the country. Part of NCNC's proposal was a must deliberation about changes to the Nigerian constitution and more power to the regional House of Assemblies. Little was done to their agitations, but it was unrelenting, which led to Macpherson's constitution of 1951. Again, Azikiwe opposed the changes he contested during the unsteady elections that were held from August to December 1951, which he lost to Obafemi Awolowo due to the nomination of the majority of the Western region. After several attempts to secure a seat in the national legislature, which caused uproar in the West, Azikiwe finally moved to Eastern region in 1952, and a new election reinstated him as a member of the Eastern Assembly. He was appointed a chief minister and became premier of Nigeria's Eastern region in 1954, when it became a federating unit. Fast forward to when Nigeria gained her independence, Azikiwe became Governor General on November 16, 1960, while Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the Prime Minister. He became the first Nigerian named to the Privy Council of the United Kingdom, and he emerged as the first president of Nigeria when Nigeria became a republic in 1963. However, Azikiwe's role in both posts was largely ceremonial. Sadly, Azikiwe's tenure as the ceremonial president of Nigeria was terminated by the January 15, 1966 military coup, which ousted the civilian government from office. He was the most renowned politician to escape assassination after the coup. At the initial stage of the Biafran War, he was the spokesman and advisor to Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu. He later switched his support back to Nigeria during the war, and in his pamphlets and interviews, he appealed to Ojukwu to end the war. Away from Azikiwe being a politician and a profound journalist, he was a sportsman. Football was one of the things the British government brought to Nigeria as they colonized Africa. However, the British never allowed the participation of Nigerian leagues in any of its matches. Nnamdi Azikiwe saw this as an injustice because he was equally denied the right to compete in the track and field event in 1934. He founded Zig's Athletic Club, ZAC, which would open its doors to sportsmen and women of all races, nationalities, tribes, and other classes in society. The club, which started small, rose to fame and won trophies both in Nigeria and abroad. Witnessing many years of struggle, August 1960, a few weeks after Nigeria's official independence, marked the nation's joining the World Football Body, FIFA. None of this would have happened if Nnamdi Azikiwe had not kicked against the racial segregation displayed by the British. He united Nigeria through sports and brought about a sense of nationalism that was referred to as Nigerianness, a slogan of oneness. To date, football in Nigeria is one of the cogent activities that has brought different people together, not minding the differences in their tribes. Nnamdi Benjamin Azikiwe, usually known as Zik, was a Nigerian statesman and fervent political leader who was considered a driving force behind the nation's independence. Many of his nationalistic moves placed him as the father of Nigerian nationalism. Azikiwe was the Chancellor of the University of Lagos for 4 years. He eventually joined a political party to contest. However, he rested from forging his political ambitions after the December 31st, 1983 military coup, following his many attempts to run for the presidency in 1979 and 1983. Azikiwe died on May 9, 1996 at age 91. After a long illness, he was laid to rest in his native Onitsha. As part of his achievements and honor, he established the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1960. The Queen Elizabeth II appointed him to the Privy Council of the United Kingdom. Also, he has his portrait on the 500 naira note, making him a national icon. Not forgetting his collection of books, Azikiwe wrote several books in his name, including his autobiography.